Again, this is Chris Thiede, managing editor of ComArca magazine, and I am here today with Beth Campbell, CEO of Wilson Associates. I guess, Beth, if you could kind of start off and just give us a short introduction to yourself, who you are, your position, title, and the type of work that you and your firm does.
Yeah, sure. Well, good afternoon, Chris, and thanks for having me and hosting Wilson here on your podcast. So, I am Beth Campbell, and I am the CEO of Wilson Associates. We're a international global design firm focused on interior design for hospitality, food and beverage, and lifestyle. So we have about 235 designers in 10 studios around the world.
Great. So, and from the background that I got from Upspring about you, obviously you're a CEO at Wilson Associates, and you've been involved in a lot of kind of high-profile projects. I guess talk a little bit about that. Some of the projects, perhaps, that are in your portfolio, and maybe some of the challenges that were behind them.
Yeah, I would love to share some really interesting projects. We're very fortunate to have a great mix and tapestry of clients with different needs and goals. And so we, really pride ourselves in working very closely with, our clients for each specific project. And a few that stand out of recent note, our Dallas studio just finished the fantastic interior design for the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. So obviously everybody's familiar with the Big Guitar Hotel, which is a fantastic, iconic design by Clyde Juba here in Las Vegas. And, with that massive expansion, we had a really great time and an opportunity to work on the guest rooms. We did over 800 guest rooms. There were 638 in the guitar tower, and there were 168 in the pool tower. So it was, the task there was to follow along with Hard Rock, right? Which they, you work hard, you play hard. And so we were tasked with designing both a relaxing and calming guest room that would give guests kind of that respite away from the hustle and bustle of the gaming floor. And so what our team did is we focused and we drew our inspiration from the surrounding landscape, to make it more peaceful interiors and to have kind of bringing the outside in, if you will. That was heavily focused on, and solutions were driven by materiality, of course, with natural stones and woven textures and very lush rugs. So we really wanted that, Floridian, luxury residence accommodation to come through, which, obviously included pops of very Floridian colors. So as for the challenge, it's really an iconic building and fantastic design. But if you stop and think about it, to design an interior, not only in floor plan where there's a curvature to the glazing, but it wasn't, just in plan, it was also from floor to ceiling. So we had a lot of opportunity to do some creativity in how we laid out the rooms and how we took advantage of that, quite honestly. And that's what we ended up doing, is we really leaned into the inherent architecture that, is so fantastic, to kind of really take advantage of those full height views, the curved glass, and just soaring views out to, the different directions, of the Florida coastline there. So that was really fantastic and fun. Great clients, great shell and core architecture. But the puzzle we got to really play with some amazing views and build the rooms around that.
Okay, great. Are there other projects that you wanted to talk about today that kind of, same question, different projects, I guess? Any other projects that you wanted to feature?
Actually, I have a couple more, but the one that really stands out to me that's really quite awe-inspiring in and of itself is the Mahanakan Tower in Thailand. It's in Bangkok, actually. I don't know if you're familiar with the Mahanakan Bangkok Tower. It is the tallest tower in Thailand. It's over 1,030 feet, just a massive 78 floor structure. Very cool, iconic design with the pixelated facade. Almost looks like they were trying to make it look like Godzilla climbed up the outside and kind of pulled chunks away. Olin Sheeran designed that. He's a brilliant, brilliant designer. based in Hong Kong with offices in Bangkok. But the fun part with that is that, our client, we're doing the hotel with them as well. It's in a core hotel. But the fun thing that we just opened up last fall was the Sky Bar. So it's the Mahanakan Bangkok Sky Tower bar. So it is up on the 78th floor. And so if you've been to Bangkok, the temperate weather, lots of sunshine, or if it's storming, it's really, really storming and you get up that high. And so there's indoor, outdoor space. It's a rooftop bar. So we want to take advantage of the exterior. And so there was a handful of puzzle pieces and challenges for us there, particularly in the volume of the space. It's a narrow space, but we did 2 stories. We were able to have some significant 2-story spaces with a tremendous amount of glazing. So the views are fantastic, but that sun can be blaring and hot. And so we really worked to make sure we had the right tapestry of fabrics to kind of soften that sunlight as it came in and let it kind of get fractures as it came into the space. Then the other side of that is it's a very narrow. So there's other areas where we actually ended up using a lot of mirrors and highly reflective polished metals to help kind of make it not feel so narrow. And then there was obviously the exterior spaces that we had to be really, really smart about having some glazing along with some local landscaping that would allow us to kind of shield the heavy winds and or the sun that would come glaring in. So overall, it's just a fantastic space. I highly recommend it. If you're in Bangkok, you need to go up there and grab a bite to eat or a cocktail and just take in the views, particularly at sunset. So that was a really great project for us. We're really proud of that.
Excellent. So I guess talk a little bit about the strengths that you bring and your overall approach to projects. I mean, obviously every project is different, but how do you approach your projects, and what do you do to kind of get the best out of your teams and the best for your clients?
That's an excellent question. We at Wilson are very proud of the fact that our design style is driven and predicated by the authentically local feel and vibe, as we try to pull that out from a local cultural standpoint, as well as tie into the true brand of the operator that we're working with. To a hotel lobby and go, ha, this is a Wilson design. And we're proud of that, right? We want it to be different. And so inside of that, it allows us to have a huge variation in how we approach our projects, because each time we're starting new. And so, we all know this, the tourist industry is ever evolving, and particularly with the black swan that we're in, that's going to hopefully become a white swan. As we come out of this pandemic, it's going to change how design is done. And so it's very exciting time for those of us that are curious, which is what designers inherently are. And so looking at how modern day travel is going to continue to change, we just continue to explore ways to attract and engage the guests and the end users. And so what we really do is we take our design process and we involve interpreting all the local and historical and cultural experiences of the destination, but incorporating those rich facets into one interior design that helps to elaborate on the brand of the operator that we're working with. And so, all of us travel, all of us get to take in new and exciting things. And so we all get to bring that to bear. And so at Wilson, what we've really done is, since we have this fleet, if you will, of very small, nimble teams, our studios are anywhere from 15 to 30 people. And so it allows us to be kind of spread across the globe. And it allows us to bring in, not just cultural differences from where people are physically living, but it's their backgrounds and what they bring to bear. And all of us at Wilson travel. Time we come in, we bring in a new taste, a new infusion, whether it's, into a restaurant and we're designing, the aprons for the waiters or the menus or the lighting or the graphic design, any aspect of it, we try to really tap into our personal passions along with the local culture with the brand that we're trying to build. So we really enjoy, just trying to be more curious and find those opportunities.
Great. So, wanted to shift gears here a little bit. You said something earlier that I want to come back to, but before we do that, wondering if I could get you to talk a little bit about your own career and kind of, going back to the beginning. What inspired you, or what influenced you, or who influenced you, whether it's a what or a who, influenced you to pursue a career in architecture, and then um, how did you get to where you are now?
That's excellent question. Yeah, so who or what influenced me to pursue my career? I'm consider myself tremendously blessed and fortunate. I have a very good family, very strong upbringing, family oriented. But when I was a small child, and people that know me have heard this story umpteen times, but I was back in the 70s when you would go to cocktail parties with your parents, and then kids would go off and play, and then you'd go home. Well, I'd go home and redesign the house that I was in. And so my dad caught me doing that. So he helped to get me a drafting table and all the paraphernalia to allow me to sketch and design at home. And that was probably about 8 years old, up through, about 10 or 11. And then he connected me with an architect in town that actually had studied under Frank Lloyd Wright. So I would stop at his office on the way home from school each day and get books. And so I've always had been drawn to architecture and the concept that you could have a thought in your head and then drive down the street and see people actually physically enjoying and participating in that thought that was in your head. And so I've been fortunate throughout my career. Growing up, I went to Kent State, and then I really cut my teeth at Gensler. I had extreme fortune to work with some amazing people there. Particularly, I worked with Art Gensler on a few projects, which was just a moment of your career, right? But there's also some amazing people there, Diane Hoskins and Robin Clare. They took me under their wing and just taught me so much. They're just brilliant, brilliant women. So throughout all of that, I have been very fortunate to be supported and coached and coaxed into different places. And one thing that I can end with is, jumping here to join Wilson. Angela Ardent, she was most recently the SVP of retail at Apple. Brilliant. She's a brilliant, brilliant businesswoman. Prior to that, she was the CEO of Burberry in London. And she was gracious enough to take some time to meet with me. And we were talking, and it was at the time as I was interviewing. I was actually talking with a hotel group about going over to be the head of design, as well as my position here at Wilson. And she just sat me down and talked through the whole, the opportunity to be a CEO for such a strong brand as Wilson, and some of the opportunities and challenges to kind of realign the culture here and to build it back up, which is right in my wheelhouse. So she really was instrumental in me taking the leap to join Wilson, and got me here to where I am today.
So you said something about realigning the culture and that being in your wheelhouse. I guess I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more on that in terms of, what is your approach, and what is that? Why is that important? What does that entail?
I think that so as far as looking at the culture, and when I joined Wilson, it was intriguing to me on many fronts. But the main thing is that it was an opportunity to realign the corporate structure, right? It's around corporate behavior. And what had occurred is between the amazing and brilliant Trish Wilson selling the firm to private equity, who then sold to our now parent company, Arc Plus. In between, it was private equity. Again, really smart, brilliant people. Their play is to enhance the bottom line. And so in that, the firm kind of got into silos and compete. Me coming on, that's mainly what I did. I spent the first 3 months in what I would call a discovery mode, got out and met with everybody. The intention there is to find out, where the opportunities for growth are, who the passionate players are. Because to me, my job is not to stand on some mountaintop and give edicts. My job is to actually understand what's happening in the industry, set the strategies with the teams, and then let it cascade down through. I set the mission and values, they then set the strategies. But then as I'm watching and cascading these missions, I then also need to be the one responsible for clearing a path to allow and enable the front line, to all the designers, to just be empowered to make decisions, to do what's right. That's how you can truly be agile and nimble. And that's what we need. That's what we need in our industry. And so, like I said, our team of about 235 players is a really, really good number, because you can do that. You can we can undulate up or we can scale back, but it allows us to be really nimble. And so that was my purpose and my goal coming here, and we've done a really great job. We're working on a few more things this year as far as enhancing our technologies and adjusting our actual physical workplace environment to be more of a design hub. Actually, one of my designers, Dane in LA, calls it he likes to liken it to what we're trying to do is the Andy Warhol factory, in Manhattan from days gone by in the 60s. And so that's where we're really heading. Because to me, that embodies our culture, right? We're about design, we're about partnering and being local with our clients. And so I'm the steward of that, and I'm really proud and honored to be, able to be a part of this team at Wilson.
Excellent. So I'm assuming that during your career, throughout the course of your career, the environment for women in architecture has changed and evolved a little bit, or maybe a lot. I guess talk a little bit about that. If it has indeed changed, how so, and how has that affected your career and the career prospects of women coming up, now into the field?
Yeah, excellent question. Yeah, the environment of architecture has dramatically changed for women over the span of my career. I came out of university in the early 90s. And we all had those opportunities out in the field where, people just didn't quite understand. A few times we did a lot of, my first job, we did a lot of K through 12 schools, and I'd be on a job site. I was used for a student teacher that got lost. It's like, no, I'm the architect. so there's just those opportunities and things that would happen, and it never really seemed to dissuade me or to upset me. But it was just interesting. I found it intriguing. But I can tell you that, as the industry itself continues to evolve, I think there's just a great balance between the inherent emotional intelligence that women bring to the table, our sensibility and ability to navigate large rooms. I just think it's really, really great what's happening and where the careers are evolving. So I was I had some things here. It has been, it's interestingly a male dominated world, but ironically, the Wilson firm has an amazing kind of feminine legacy. And as I said earlier, we're standing on the shoulders of a giant, Trish Wilson, who stood for innovation and quality and design while creating this environment for designers. So, and through that, we're all inspired at Wilson. So, but what I've learned along the way is that there's always room to. What I suggest is we all need to rail against the urge to continue the halo effect that seems to be predominant in our industry. We need to actively diversify our talent pool by engaging multiple avenues of talent searches, encouraging inter-office talent exchanges, and just leadership awareness training. But I really look forward to the day in our, industry of architecture and design that we could just be free of any bias. And that there'll be a day in evolution where it seems so seamless that we only realize that it has dissipated or disappeared when we look at it in reflection. So to me, in the meantime, all of us are in control of our own path and our choosing. And I always say, if you encounter a glass ceiling, first of all, is it real or is it perceived by you? But if you really have a glass ceiling, whether it be a legacy player refusing to retire, or a gender bias, what I always say is you just simply need to find another room. So.
Okay. So why is it important, do you think, for young women to pursue, if this is something that they're interested in, to pursue careers in architecture, and then kind of along the same lines, and why is it important for the industry to kind of support and encourage that type of growth?
Well, I think it's important for young girls or women as they start out and consider education and going to university, to consider architecture, because it is such a fascinating field. There's so many different things you could do inside the field, whether it be the technical side, the design side, the management side. You could get into leadership, you could get into design, do as you start to get into that education. And I just think that it would be, I think we need to really consider young women as they're coming out and help to encourage them and have them not be fearful that it's just a STEM, it's not just math. It's not just, the physics and structures. They are there. Don't get me wrong. But the fact is you don't have to just be a math genius to do architecture. And so I just think there needs to be a stronger education around that, because honestly, that is the future of this industry, is making sure we get the right people into universities and the right programs to help continue to grow and bolster our field as a whole. What was the second part of that question?
The second part of the question is why is it important for the industry to support that effort? I mean, how does the industry and firms, how do they benefit by, it sounds like an obvious question, but how do they benefit by having, a more diverse workforce, whether it's women or people of color or anybody for that matter?
Well, I think in the world of architecture, in the realm of design, having a diverse workforce, whether it's gender or culture, ethnicity, backgrounds, where you were brought up, where you were educated, I think allowing that actually gives a richer tapestry to the organization, to the design firm itself. You'll come up with better design solutions, quite honestly. But let's also stop and break it down. Without clients, we can't design. And our clients are not one, genetic makeup. Our clients are very complex and very match that as an architecture firm, as a design firm. We in the industry need to be very cognizant of that and be very smart and continue to build up, a wide range of skills within each of our own firms.